Our recent research study indicated that we have about 2.25 million, I believe it is. And by 2015, we're going to need about 4.25 million. So let's say we're 2 million short, plus or minus 500,000. It's still a big number. Any way that you choose to look at it, it's a big number. And when we look at statistics and reports like the Bureau of Labor Statistics, they tell us that there's zero unemployment in the IT security space. Well, that means we're probably going to be robbing from each other for a while until we figure out how to find that 2 million people. So we are confident and very, very hopeful that some of the things that we're trying to do and the things we're trying to do in partnership and collaboration with other organizations are going to lead to some things that will affect some change and to get more people into this exciting, lucrative, and robust field at the moment. Now, I've been asked by several people, and also, I guess, got a pat on the back from a bunch of people on the collaboration that we're doing this week on our first annual Congress, which I've been looking forward ever since I've been involved with ISC Squared. But our involvement and our partnership with ASIS, historically known for physical and traditional security. The physical security, the traditional security parts, has, for some reason or another, been separated from the logical piece of the business for a long time. It always frustrated me back in the Department of Interior, when I was the CIO up there, that I had one side of the building, the CIO with the IT people, and over on the other side, reporting up through an entirely another chain, were the physical security folks. And we never talked to each other, never enough on that. And yet, as we see the hardware and the appliances and the development of things like mobile devices coming into play and becoming more and more important now, we find that our problems are similar. And also, we found that there's only about a 30% convergence of the physical and the IT side of that. It had an interesting report back from the president of the ASIS folks yesterday at a luncheon, and they did a survey of their membership, and of about, I think they've got about 36,000 members at this point. And it came back, they asked them what their biggest concern was, their biggest threat for the coming year. And 50% of them said it was cybersecurity. So I thought that this kind of underscored and made the point that we need to be doing more things together. So, Michael and I congratulated ourselves because it was over a beer about a year ago, I guess, that we sat down and signed an MOU that we would start doing things together. And the one thing that we wanted to do together was to put a conference on like this. So we're kind of outnumbered. They've got 20,000 and we've got almost 1,000, but they've been around since 1955 and we've been around since 1989. So we've got a few years to grow and to catch them, but we'll be there hopefully one of these days. So first of all, we wanted to announce that we are forming what we call a 501c3 nonprofit foundation. And this is so that we can collectively put into the foundation the things that we're doing that we'll get into with a little more detail here in a second with you, that are what we call part of our social responsibility. We are a nonprofit, and we are proud to be at a point that we can do some of the things that nonprofits do. And Among that is to give back to our community and to pay our due debt for the privilege of not having to pay taxes on revenues that we use to sustain ourselves. And beyond that, it just makes you feel good. It makes you feel good to give back. So now that we have 80,000 members out there, we're going to be putting programs like the Safe and Secure Online, which at this point has reached over 65,000 kids on how to be safe and secure on the internet. We'll be putting that into the foundation and talking with corporations as supporters, sponsors of that thing to help us move forward into our schools to help the children. Amanda likes me to say that. Practically all of us either have kids or grandkids that we want to be as safe and secure as we can possibly make them. So, Julie will be talking a little more about that later. But another thing that we wanted to do is to find a way to put together good, meaningful chapters for these 80,000 members across the world. We do a lot of canvassing of this membership to make sure that we're giving the right services back, providing them the right tools, doing the right things for these 80,000 folks to keep them sharp, because that's one of the advantages that they have over non-certified members. And this is one of the things that the employers like from the certification program, and that's the continuing educational credits that are required in order to keep your certification. Chapters will help members maintain their credentials and help me avoid losing that 10% a year that don't get those CPEs. And it'll form more of a mentoring group, networking, connections, face-to-face things, and it'll give security people to talk to, because a lot of people don't hear their message, I guess, as much as we often would hope they do in the workplace. So chapters are going to help us expand our identity. They will help us spread the message worldwide, and they'll reach places that we cannot reach from Palm Harbor, Florida, obviously. And we're pleased to announce at this point that I think maybe I better save that part of it for Julie, who's going to talk here just shortly on where our first launch chapters are going to be. But anyway, this is probably a good point, too, to mention that in partnering with schools on Capture the Flag and some of the things that will highlight and make the career path for getting the kids into schools, in through the academic process and into the workplace where they're fully qualified, ready to hit the ground running with better academic training as it comes up. So we got a lot of things on our list that are to develop these partnerships with schools, with governments, and with just anybody who has a sound vested interest in the passion that we have for security. And this is probably a good point to introduce Julie. And she is our new foundation. I don't guess I can call you new anymore. She's been with us for a few months now. And the timing is just excellent. We've been practicing and getting set up and on the foundation, getting things moved for a few months now, but we officially got our acknowledgement from the IRS, who has to approve 501c3s, by the way, just the week before the Congress. So the timing could not have been better. And Julie has extreme experience in forging good strategic partnerships with companies and showing them the advantages of foundations, and is going to be very persuasive for us on how we can move further much faster together than we can individually as a single company. So Julie, would you come address that, please?
Thank you very much. Again, my name is Julie Peeler, and I'm the director of the new ISC Squared Foundation. And the Foundation's mission is to further our programs in cyber education and in market research to make sure that the cyber world is simply a safer place for all of our citizens. And really a good way to think about it is what the Foundation does is the part of ISC squared that touches the end user, it touches the final consumer of, in the cyber world. And as Hord mentioned, there's really 3 program areas that are now going to be falling underneath the Foundation. First, our Safe and Secure Online Education Program. Second, our Scholarship Program. And third, our Market Research Programs that are helping us illuminate some of the issues that are facing our industry now and in the future that would lead toward policy changes at a government and corporate level. As Hord mentioned, the creation of the Foundation allows us just generally to broaden and deepen all of our social responsibility programs and the impact that they are having around the world, and already new things are happening at the Foundation. I'm pleased to announce a couple of new scholarship programs that we have for this year. First, we've got the new Women's Scholarship, which is designed to encourage more women to choose a career in cybersecurity. And we've also added this year, we've been doing scholarships for graduate and postgraduate degrees, and this year for the first time we're doing scholarships for undergraduates as well. And the application deadline is October 3rd, so for anybody who knows someone who'd like to be in cybersecurity, we would be more than happy to be looking at an application for a scholarship from them. Now we're able to provide tuition assistance to up to 40 aspiring cybersecurity professionals annually from high school to postgraduate work. And we could reach so many more of them with the charitable support of organizations and individuals in our industry who have a vested interest in developing the next generation of cybersecurity professional. Now also with our Safe and Secure Online program, there's some news there as well. That program has been aimed at children ages 11 to 14. However, one of the things that we've noted is that children as young as 6 and 7 years old are far more adept at the cyber world than we could have ever imagined. And so we've created educational programs for children 7 to 10, and we've broken out 11 to 14. And later on this year, we'll be working on a program for high school students as well. So we're going to be able to educate children in primary school, middle school, and high school ages. And then finally, we're also adding a program to educate their parents as well. In many ways, it doesn't help if we're educating the children, but the parents don't know what the kids are up to. And so the parents have been asking us for this kind of a program, and with the new school year this year, we will be providing that program for them. Now, that program has reached over 65 children in 4 countries, but I see no reason that we can't reach one child for every one of our 80,000 members, and that's my goal for this year. And next year, 2 children, and then 3, and then 4 for every one of our certified members. Because I believe that every child in every country with an ISC squared certified member deserves to be safe online. But that can only happen with the financial backing of organizations, again, who have a vested interest in the cause of keeping children around the world safe and secure online, and the volunteer hours and the financial backing of our members. So through the new charitable foundation, we hope to keep more children safe from online predators. We hope to send more promising young people to school and to conduct more research that leads to public policy in support of our industry. So expect to be hearing from me or our board members as we develop plans to further expand our programs and achieve this goal of creating a positive face for you, the certified cybersecurity professional in society. Again, Safe and Secure Online is our signature program, and we're really, really proud of that. And today we have one of our volunteer mentors, David Melnick, here to discuss his own personal experience with being an active participant in the program. Now, David is a member of ISC Squared. He is also a member of our board of directors, and he's a principal at Deloitte. And he's going to talk about the collaborative relationship between the foundation and Deloitte in delivering Safe and Secure Online through their programs. David?
Thank you, Julie.
You go that way.
Give me one moment.
So while she's setting that up, I'll just highlight, as a partner at Deloitte, where we have over 1,000 professionals that are CISP certified, I felt like when I would go to a PTFA meeting as a father and sit around all of the parents and this topic would come up in conversation, I was like a cobbler looking at 1,000 people in a room without wearing shoes, right? That I had some obligation, some responsibility to participate in that. And so, before 2009, while Deloitte had a lot of involvement in the community and a commitment to community programs, we had never really mobilized our security professionals for anything that really leveraged their experience and allowed them to make a contribution to give something back to the community. And so I encountered, to my pleasant surprise, this pent-up desire in the security professionals I work with just within Deloitte to be a part of something like this. So I think we're ready, and I'll maybe just start with a quick video before I get into my personal experience with the program and delivering it.
That's it. I just can't take it anymore.
What I was first struck by when I was introduced to the multimedia, and this is just one element of a more comprehensive multimedia program, was how easy and turnkey they hit Child.net International, and we had put this thing together. So combining that with the deep knowledge and credibility that our cyber professionals had, it was quite easy to find myself going into a school and delivering this program. I first got involved with it in 2009, and went to an inner city school, John Laity Middle School. And at that school, we had a great relationship, Deloitte did, with the principal there. We were doing a lot of projects, beautification, other projects. And we took a whole class, about 800 kids, through this program, 30 kids at a time, a dozen plus volunteers, and we ran them through that. And I was shocked by both the sort of need for it. The administration, the teachers there just weren't really prepared to tackle this topic. They didn't feel comfortable that they had the knowledge to engage in the conversation, and yet there was such a clear cyberbullying issue at the school and a broader safety issue for the kids. I would do anecdotal straw polls in the classroom, and I found in every class I taught there was at least one child, often a young girl, who would raise her hand when I asked the question of who's met somebody that they were introduced to only online, gone into the physical world and had a meeting with them unsupervised after having only met them online. And what it highlighted was just how vulnerable this population was to me. So from that humble beginning, over last June, I was able to mobilize a much larger group, and we delivered this program on a single day nationally to a little over 4,000 kids in well over a dozen schools from New York to LA and a number of places in between. So, this program has been very powerful for me, and I'm going to, give back some of the time I'm sure someone else will use, and keep my comments, brief. I'm not sure where I go to next, and I'm going to invite Horde to come back up and join us.
Maybe you want to entertain some questions, David?
Sure. Sure. Are there any questions from, I can certainly speak to not only Deloitte's commitment to it and the opportunity for an organization like Deloitte to be partnering with ISC Squared, but also from my personal experience delivering this to kids. My daughter has 500 Facebook friends, and, I find myself, in the same situation as a lot of the parents that I'm interacting with at the schools, as well as the other children. Please.
What you said, like, straw poll,
Yeah.
one child raising their hand.
Yeah, so those were 30-person classrooms, but my percentages are a lot smaller than some survey data that, we have out of the UK. Tim, who's with us here, has done some more substantive survey data, and the numbers apparently from even UK, I don't have the survey in front of me, but can go as high as 10% of children actually can be, have met in an unsupervised way somebody, and you could help me maybe offline get, him that survey that we're referring to. Yeah, I think, most of those, fortunately, in the specific situations I've encountered, and we're a little careful at how far we go in the classroom with the conversation, but it's often been a high school kid in some cases, and a connection that was arguably inappropriate, but not, a more sort of careful predator. One of the last things I'll comment about in the experience with the inner city school is that particular school, John Laity, which is just one, is in downtown LA in a disputed area between two gangs. And what's interesting is even at the middle school level, that dispute bleeds over into the school, and the administration have to wrestle with that. And one of the surprising byproduct benefits of this we found is that they actually took our program and applied it to the broader problem of bullying. In that particular school, 3 kids in that year had survived drive-by shootings related to that gang activity, and they reproduced frame by frame the longer version of the video you saw with kids in their school, and have used it to show to parents and other kids in the school, and have made it a part of a broader anti-bullying campaign. And according to their teachers, they believe this has had a measurable impact on the bullying challenge, as well as some of the broader topics dealt with in the safe and secure, curriculum. So, any other questions?
How do you approach the schools initially, and how do you explain what you're going to offer?
It's a very interesting challenge for us because ISC Squared doesn't have the kind of reputation in school administration so that we're known, and there's a lot of need for trust to bring someone on campus to this topic. Now, while our ISC Squared does background checks, we're very careful with any of the people that we would put in the classroom, certain other agencies that have programs, some Joint Task Force of Law Enforcement and others that deliver related curriculum that we sometimes partner with, have a little bit of an easier time getting that introduction. For me, in my case, it was partly students in a school. My daughter was in a school, so that made it very easy to get into that school. Deloitte had a relationship with the school, so the name Deloitte had credibility and trust, and I was able to piggyback that. But in some cases, it can be just a personal relationship with a teacher or administrator that the ISC Squared professional will engage in. In some cases, it can be a broader relationship in the school district or even at the state level with education that can help establish that credibility. But I think that part of the challenge we're solving is now that we've found an army of trained professionals that really have the skills to credibly deliver this, now that we have a very well-developed curriculum, I think part of the next wave of challenge is to roll out the program effectively, consistently, and some of that is awareness. And so moments like this, opportunities for greater awareness, that might come from press and other things are steps on that journey for us. So.
Can you give us an example of, what are the key pieces of the program when you go into a school?
Yeah, I think, it breaks into really 3 chunks. We talked a little bit about cyberbullying and the social interactions. Middle school is where social awareness goes online. And it's just incredible to see how much of the social interactions are happening online outside of school. So that, that social awareness and that cyberbullying is one piece of it. Another piece of it is that often these children are the computer experts in their homes. So if a computer is going to be protected, basic techniques, antivirus, things like that, they're going to be the ones that have to have some awareness about it. And their personal safety, the simple concepts that I try and teach organizations about protecting your password, don't share it with all your friends. I mean, some of these blocking and tackling issues about how to protect your identity online, how to ensure that your infrastructure or your computer is adequately safeguarded, and how to deal ethically in your social relationships and also, with the outside world, so that you're not downloading music illegally, or, and I'll use the words directly here because we use them directly in the curriculum. Topics like sexting and other topics like that. No adult has generally spoken directly to these kids. No one's used the word pedophile out loud. No one's made it safe to have that conversation. So talking about sexting and educating a 12-year-old boy that if he just texts an inappropriate image of his friend, that technically he may have violated a federal law around trafficking and child pornography. And the laws are a little ambiguous about what that means for children, so in terms of how they're enforced. So, there's some basic education around behavior, ethical behavior online, and legal behavior.
I have two questions. One, you just touched on kind of, want to talk to them before about a lot of that stuff. How do the parents fit into that, this whole conversation?
Yeah, it's a really important point that I think Julie alluded to when we talked about bringing the curriculum to the parents, because what we find is, the kids are alone in their bedroom late at night with a computer unsupervised. That generally the parents provide virtually no oversight. And it's not because they're bad parents, it's because they are not aware generally of the risks, of the threats their children are exposed to online. And so there is a very important educational component for the parents as well, and I think that we're moving to try and address that as well. I think it's an important point. Was there a second question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I actually been reading a couple. I think there was a case where two boys were, I think they're like in their young age, and they've just been charged and have to register as sex offenders. Do you guys bring in a lot of, news and what's going on in the outside world into these conversations, or do you try and keep that out of it?
There's a scene in one of the videos where,
Repeat the question.
oh,
Sure, I just was wondering, I think there's been some news about young children who've been labeled actually as sex offenders because of exactly what you just said.
and I think you wanted me to repeat the question because I have the mic. Was that what you're? But I think if I could met it up, it's, no, it's okay, Ken. I think the question was about the role of law enforcement and regulatory or litigation and legal risk around this topic. I mean, broadly, what are these kids committing crimes? Is that a big risk? Is that a big part of what's going on? And we do have a part at the end of the cyberbullying video, very consciously, where at the end of parents getting involved, law enforcement shows up at the school, and it's always a big part of the conversation with the kids. Why are the police there? I don't understand why the police would be there, because they just don't realize that whether it's downloading music or texting an image or, committing this kind of social, aggression could actually be breaking a law. And so I think there's a big educational part for the kids. Cyberbullying is a law in the books, for example, in California, but it's got no enforcement associated with it. I think most of these things, and I mentioned the sexting and the child trafficking, most prosecutors wouldn't, probably go after a 12-year-old kid involved in some image on a cell phone. So I don't think it's so much that these kids are in general finding themselves in the court system, but I think that there's a big educational gap of the seriousness with which their behavior online, the implications of it in the real world. I think that's probably the bigger challenge. I don't know if anyone else would. Now I've used up.
The whole theme of the subject of the discussion is just underscore the importance of physical activity.
There's so much need. I mean, if any of you are, have young children in middle school and you show up at a PTFA event, if you probe about this topic, I mean, you'll realize that, it's one of the most sort of sensitive and important areas to get the attention, and it's one of the areas that's getting the least, I mean, it just really is an underserved community of people. And I think about that a lot as I spend essentially most of my days helping enterprise organizations figure out how to do all this stuff, how to protect their infrastructure, how to be safe online, right? How to have good practices around passwords. And I spent all day working with corporations on doing that. And these children just, are off on their own figuring it out, and they're a very vulnerable population. So I'm glad to have the opportunity to be a part of the program.
Do I have a good board of directors or what? One of the, just recapping some of the things on David, one of the reasons this is so difficult is the teachers themselves don't have a good grasp of the subject matter. They don't really have a good grasp of the comprehensiveness of the problem that's going on with it. And they're just not comfortable. They're not comfortable with teaching it. So I think we have found in most cases that the teachers actually want separate briefings themselves. They want to know more about this. And that's really how the thing gets to expand, is by educating the educator and the trainer type of thing of it. So it's quite advantageous in that matter as well. I wanted to point out Tim Wilson, who is a dedicated worker with us in London, who's around today and is going to be leading a session later in the week for any follow-on questions, and he has some stories that are quite remarkable on that as well. I mentioned earlier that we have formed chapters, and one of the reasons and one of the things that are going to come from the chapter piece of this around the world is it's going to give us a additional launch point to actually have more opportunities for chapter members to do things like this. And very seldom, if ever, do you ever hear, I'm going to be an IT security professional, I'm going to be a digital forensics expert, I'm going to be an incident handler, continuity management expert. You don't hear that yet. So that's our goal, is just to get the message to these kids that this is a very challenging, it's an exciting field. You spend so much time on the computer. This is where the world is. It's not where it's going, it's where it is. So it's a lucrative thing. And by the way, look at the unemployment list. This is where you can get a job. I've been given the kill signal. So thank you so very much for your attention. Good day.